The rich people are the ones who have the freedom, who have the ability to just be quiet, who have the ability to not be bothered 24/7 by their phones, who have the ability to disconnect from social, to disconnect from their immediate surroundings, to not be preoccupied with emails 24/7. It's the rich people who can actually sit down in a chair and think or not think,
Yep.
right? And it seems like in the future, the way I see it, the rich will be paying extra to not be bothered, to not be hammered with ads, to not be surrounded by this noise in social media, the news, the communication of any kind. Basically, they'll be paying to be in solitude.
I don't know if it's rich people or if it's, I don't know if it has anything to do with money. I think it has to do with purely a satisfaction of life. I think at the end of the day, all of this stuff is distractions, and it's distractions from your reality. And I think most people don't actually like their reality. They don't like their job. They don't like what they spend their time on. Many of them don't like their kids or their spouse, and they don't like where they live. They don't like their situation.
But I think you also have to mention that they also don't like who they are.
They don't exactly. 100%.
They're kind of sort of they realize they're stuck with the life that they have,
Exactly. And what this does is it basically allows you to be distracted. It allows you to basically say, okay, well, if I don't have to face the reality by jumping into Netflix, jumping into YouTube, scrolling through Instagram, looking at other people and basically continuously being entertained, which is why I think, the prominence of reality TV in general has skyrocketed, and the Kardashians and all that stuff is because people look at other people's lives and basically
and they need them to see that those other people's lives, even though they're richer and more successful, they're very dysfunctional.
Exactly.
Like that, I think that's the big thing. It's like they need to see other people fail miserably at their lives even more than we do.
Precisely. And
Yeah.
I think that is so I think it's not so much because there's a lot of rich people who are also miserable. They made money, but they're miserable still. And I think the main difference is the people who can shut off and the people who can turn it off are the ones who are genuinely in a good mental space with who they are, what they've accomplished, where they stand in the world. I think, my dad used to tell me something that has always stuck with me, and I always think about it whenever I feel stressed. But stress is a very simple formula that most people don't realize. Stress is purely the difference between reality and your expectation. And the further apart these two things are, the more tension there is and the more stress there is. So if your reality is, I am living in this shoebox and I'm working a $40,000 a year job, and my expectation is I want to be a millionaire, and I really want to be living in a mansion, and I want to have a family, but I'm single. Because you have this reality, but you have this mental expectation, it causes tension in your brain and stress. It was funny, the way he kind of explained it to me was, I was talking to him when I first was growing Funalytics, and I was like saying to him, like, man, I'm stressed. He's like, why are you stressed? And I was like, because we're burning money, and we're burning money with Funalytics. Like, we're not profitable. And he's like, can you be profitable? I'd be like, yeah, I could be. I'd have to cut this, this, and this, and we'd have to not focus on growth and spending money on these marketing tactics and all that stuff. And he's like, so why are you stressed? I was like, well, because if I keep going, I'm going to run out of money. He's like, but you're making the conscious choice to set an expectation that if you spend this money, it will potentially get you to profitability. But the reality is you're burning capital and you're in this situation. So you've got two options. You can either be okay with the decision that you're here and that potentially what you do will get you to here, or you can just lower your reality and bring it back, and then you won't be stressed if that's what is actually stressing you out, the fact that you're burning money. And as he kind of explained that and he mentioned that, I was like, yeah, I mean, you're right. Like I literally have put this on myself by basically saying, let's go and invest all of this money into these things that may or may not work out. But then I've turned it around in my head and said, actually, this is stressing me out now because like I may hit this wall. So I've got two options. I can either cut back on all of this stuff and get back to the comfort of I'm no longer burning money, we're profitable, etc., and we're not going to focus on growth. Or I can realize that there is a difference between my expectation and my reality, and I can embrace that and keep striving towards that. And if it doesn't work out, things change. And ever since then, I've always looked at stress and this mental game in that way. So, anytime I look at a situation, I'm feeling this crunch or this stress. I ask myself, like, well, why is that? Is it where's my expectation of that thing, and where's the reality of that thing, and where's that gap? And can I either bring down the expectation back to my reality, or are the decisions that I'm making and the actions I'm taking going to move me towards that expectation? And if I feel confident with those decisions and that action, all of a sudden the stress goes away because I'm like, okay, actually I'm working towards closing that gap. So I think most people, again, they're unhappy with their life because of that gap and their expectation of life versus their reality is just so far apart.
Yeah, you're right. I remember reading this book many years ago by a Russian author. It was a bit of a new age author, and I think he was a bit ahead of his time. But he spoke about, he tried to explain it in a similar way, and the way he positioned it was, the frame was, you're basically idealizing what should be rather than looking at what is. And so when you idealize, like, for example, let's take marriage, like when you idealize what the marriage should be and then you compare it to what is, this is where a lot of your stress will come from.
Yep.
Rather than kind of addressing, okay, this is what the marriage is, and if I want it to be something else, what are some of the practical steps should I take? Is it an honest conversation with my spouse about what I want? Is it whatever? But most people just spend time idealizing and really stressing out about what it's not.
Yep.
But they don't really do much to fix it. And what I noticed is the moment you arrive at the point where you say, okay, it's not what I wanted, so here are the steps I'm going to take to actually make it what I want, and you get into the action mode, you start taking steps, you immediately feel better. Like you're no longer busy stressing out or trying to distract yourself or procrastinate. You're actually feeling they're super present and focused, and that goal will drive you, just keep you so engaged that you will not need any distractions. Like anytime I find myself sinking into video games or something, it always means that I'm either not setting a big enough goal, or that I'm idealizing some part of my life and I'm trying to escape because I don't want to think
exactly.
about it.
And the difference between you and 99% of the population is that once you've looked at that as a challenge and you see it as, okay, if I take action, I can solve it, you go and take action. 99% of the population will not. They don't want to take action. It's actually almost more intimidating to take action than to just drown the noise and basically get out of it. So people will complain about their financial situation. People will complain about the fact that they have to work till 65. People will complain about the fact that they're not living where they want to live, or with the person they want to be with. And instead of then taking any sort of action because they're scared or whatever, they're afraid of the failure or whatever it may be, they'll just drown it. And they'll drown it in video games. They'll drown it in Netflix and YouTube and in Instagram and whatever can distract them from the reality of taking that action. Because taking action is uncomfortable.
Yep.
People like to be in their comfort zone. And especially in this first world, we already, come full circle of this. Like it's too comfortable, right? So if you make me uncomfortable, I get anxious and I need stress leave and I need all sorts of things. So it's just the reality.
Yes, it is the sad reality. And look, we're out of time. I appreciate you taking the time to discuss these things with me. If anyone's listening and they like the way you think, where can they go to find out more about you?
Yeah, I mean, normally I don't talk too much about it's always more business and marketing and all that stuff. You can check me out on LinkedIn. Just look for Mikel Dia. I post a lot of videos and stuff on there. That's basically the only place I'm active. Otherwise, you can sign up to our free mapping tool at Funnelytics, and I send some emails, and I've got a lot of content and stuff like that, mostly centered around business and marketing and growth. So yeah, those are the options.